We are going to be talking about using context clues when we are reading. So we want to make sure that we are not a word victim. So we need to be a word ninja instead. Word ninjas figure out what words mean, not just how to say them. One way for us to be a word ninja is to find the definition. The definition, or the author's whisper. This is the author's whisper because the author will come right out and say what the word means, like he or she is whispering to you. This is often found with the word and definition separated by commas, the word or, and often parentheses are used to surround the definition. This is common in nonfiction texts. Now let's look at an example. The two captains, with a crew of about 15, then set off in two small pirogues, or open boats, and a larger keel boat, or a river barge. So the reason that this is a definition is because those bold words, pirogues and keelboat, or pirogues and keelboat, next to each of those is a set of parentheses with words in them. And so inside those parentheses, that is the definition of the word. Because reading that word, I don't even know how to say it. Reading that word, I'm not going to know what that means. So I need to make sure that I am figuring it out. So by using the definition in the parentheses, I am able to figure out that a pirogue is an open boat and that a keelboat is a river barge. The second way that we can be a word ninja is to find an example. An example is also called an author's whisper. This is another author's whisper. This is often used with keywords such as or like. The examples will often be in the same sentence, and this is also common in nonfiction texts. Here's an example. The plains teem with wildlife such as beaver in the streams, elk and deer in the woods, and herds of bison out on the open plains. So my word that I'm not sure what it means is the word wildlife in the big text, big bold text. After the word wildlife, I see the word such as. So this tells me that I am going to be getting an example of what wildlife is. So it says such as beaver in the streams, elk and deer in the woods, and herds of bison out on the open plains. So I can take from this that wildlife are animals that live out in nature. The third way we can become word ninjas is to use inferencing. Inferencing is using the gist to figure out the word. This is the strategy that you will use the most in fiction texts or story texts. You have to figure out the gist of the paragraph or sentences around the word. So here's an example of using inferencing. The end of your journey is in sight. Your triumphant team of explorers is approaching the Pacific coast. So I am going to use my inferencing skills, which just means that I'm going to think about the paragraph as a whole to try to figure out what the word triumphant means. So I'm seeing that it's the end of our journey and that our explorers are approaching the Pacific coast. So I can guess that triumphant means to succeed or to finish. Okay? So the fact that their journey's over, they did it, and that they're approaching the end, that means triumphant. Triumphant means that they've won something or they've succeeded in doing something. Okay, another way that we can be a word ninja is to find a synonym. Synonyms, or the words or ideas that mean the same thing. This is when an idea is repeated or said in a different way that means the same thing as the unknown word. An example of a synonym: on May 14th, one of the boats nearly capsizes. Sacagawea calmly rescues the things that have fallen overboard, including the precious notes and sketches. So my big bold word is capsizes. This is the word that I am not sure what it means. But then I read afterwards that it says Sacagawea calmly rescues the things that have fallen overboard. So I'm guessing that capsize means to have tipped, because all of these things have fallen overboard. So that's the synonym. Falling overboard, capsize. So the boats have turned, things have fallen out, and they have to get that out of the water. Okay? So the last way that we can be a word ninja is to find an antonym. An antonym are the words or ideas that mean opposite. So we have two different words and they mean the opposite of each other. Okay? So this is when the words mean the opposite of the ideas expressed. Keywords such as but, however, in contrast, although, or are used when we are using antonyms. Okay? So an example of using an antonym to figure out a word. The Shoshone are welcoming, but wary of selling Lewis any horses. So my big word that I'm not sure what it means is the word wary. Now, I do see the word but, and that means there's an antonym in there somewhere. So welcoming, the Shoshone are welcoming, but wary. So it must mean the opposite of welcoming. So welcoming means to invite, to be friendly, to gather around someone and to help them. Wary means the opposite. So wary must mean something like maybe not as trusting, maybe not as friendly, maybe a little nervous even. So I was able to use the opposite of the word wary to figure out what it meant.